Hello, insanity, my old friend. Logical fallacies come again, entering into my synapses, making me want to snapses. And the fallacies that were so plainly clear were all here. This video is full of illogic. Deconverted man here. Welcome. And if you're retuning in, welcome back. So, atheists don't exist. Yeah, apparently. I thought that I existed, but apparently I don't. Captive desk, he doesn't exist. Answers in atheism definitely doesn't exist. If you're an atheist, I have to inform you, you don't exist. You aren't real. Yeah. Apparently. Now, you might say, well, that's a very interesting idea. I mean, I'm pretty sure I exist, but I mean, how would you go about proving that? Some sort of silly semantic game of some sort? Maybe some convoluted, broken argument? No, none of that. You just say that atheists don't exist. And that's it. And then you proceed with nonsense. Utter, complete nonsense. Well, you get everything about everything wrong. And you might think I'm overselling this. Oh, man. Sit back. Relax. If you're driving, pull over safely. Find a place to park. Because you're not going to want to drive and try to listen to this stupidity. Because you will drive off of the road. And you might hit somebody or hurt yourself. So, do not operate heavy machinery or do anything at all that could harm yourself or others while listening and or watching this following video. Also, you might want to put on some sort of padded gloves so that when you hit your head, it won't hurt that much. I've warned you. And I'm not kidding. Okay? I'm not. All right? Damn. How long are you going to be alive? I don't know. Let's see, what day is it? Oh, it's Sunday. Oh, yeah, you guys are doing a thing today. Not that long. Maybe an hour. I don't know. Chem thing with Austin in 10 minutes. Oh, wow. That thing, I'm sure, will be educational. This thing, however, will be stupid. So, yeah. So, I mean, you can always watch this later. You don't have to watch me live, Anyways, all right. Atheism doesn't exist. Here we go. You ready for the stupid?
All right, boys. So let's get stuck straight in. Today's claim. Not only is atheism a ridiculous position to hold, but actually fundamentally, at its core, it does not exist. And I'm going to get into that today and go through kind of the motions and the way that my brain attacks this problem.
Yes, atheism not only doesn't exist, but it's also stupid. No, it's stupid and also it doesn't exist. But if it doesn't exist, then it can't be stupid. In order to be stupid, it would have to exist. So you're going to have to pick one of those. No, and you're not going to. Okay, all right.
So why? As far as I can see it, the question is not whether or not somebody believes. The question is what they believe in.
Okay, so the question is not what someone believes. Okay. And the actual question is what they believe in. But why isn't the question what they don't believe? I don't know. But okay, fine. Ask me what I believe in. And I'll say logic, I guess. I mean, I don't like to use the word belief per se, but I suppose I believe in it to some extent. But then again, I don't really need to believe because it's formulaic and it works on paper and I can demonstrate that. You know, A equals B, B equals C, A equals C. Okay, that works every time. So I guess I don't really need to believe it. I can just show that it works. Okay. But I don't know why I'm not allowed to say that I don't believe in stuff. But I believe in what? Science, I guess. Again, not really a belief per se, but all right. You know. But yeah, it's just weird to phrase it like this. But okay, cool.
What do they worship? Because everybody worships something.
No, not everybody worships something. This is a claim you have made about humanity that is not true. And you would need to demonstrate to some degree that it is true. First, by defining worship. What do you mean by worship? Because depending on what you mean by that word, you could potentially prove that every human worships something. And it might be easy. If worship just means admire, I suppose, but there might be some human that doesn't admire something. So I doubt that you could actually quantifiably prove that all humans do anything other than exist for some time. I mean, that's obvious. We're mortal. You could demonstrate that's easy. That's something that's true. But to claim that all humans worship things without any proof or argument, no. I don't worship anything that I'm aware of, at least not in terms of religious worship. But again, you're going to define what worship means, right? No, he's not. Of course he's not.
So, first let's look at the word itself. Atheism or theism. What is that? To go to the textbook definition, a theist is a person who believes in the existence of a god or gods, and specifically a creator who intervenes in the universe. Obviously, atheist.
You didn't make it small enough. I could almost still read it. But you looked up the word theist. You didn't look up the word atheist. And you're only looking up one version? That's it? That's not very good. But okay, maybe he's going somewhere with this.
Is when they put the A at the front is just to remain silent on that issue. So not this. And my contention is that everybody believes in something.
His contention is that everybody believes in something. Okay. That might very well be the case. Demonstrating it would be really good, but so what? I believe in something. Well, sure, I believe that humans can be reasonable if they want to be, that people can learn and grow and change. I suppose that's a belief. But there might be some human somewhere that doesn't hold any beliefs for all I know. I'm not really willing to say that all humans have a belief. But if you want to believe that all humans believe things, okay, cool.
Whether they want to hide from that fact, whether they want to lie to themselves about it or not, everybody believes in something. And to get a little bit deeper into those somethings, we can start to look at the available different options. So theism, as we covered, it's a personal, intervening creator. So it's a God who designed this, created this, and then also plays a part,
Well, Not always. Different theisms mean different things about what God is and how God works. But I'm sure that you're going to show the definition of. Oh, wait, you're not.
A role in the creation once it's set in motion. Then you have deism, which is a non-intervening creator. Then you've got pantheism, which is
Sometimes deism isn't a creating either. So you're leaving a lot of things out. But yeah, okay.
more or less what a lot of the world, a lot of the West kind of hangs their hats on today, which is a God or universe inside the God. It's kind of God is everything, God is all things, we're all little parts of God. And this part I was stuck on for a long time. Thankfully,
Yeah, pantheism is kind of strange.
I was never stupid enough to call myself atheism.
Oh, well, thankfully he was never stupid enough to call himself atheism or atheist. Yeah, okay.
I've done a lot of silly things in my life, but none that silly to call myself an.
Ah, man, it's just so silly to call yourself an atheist. Yeah, great argument. I mean, yeah, that's his argument. It's just silly to call yourself that. All right, I'm a skeptic. How about that? You want to come after skeptic now? Come on, I'm a skeptic. Bring it on.
Atheist, but pantheism, whether I didn't classify it as that or not, but I did kind of subscribe to that.
Okay.
Then you've got atheism, which is the topic of the day, which is a denial of God altogether. And
No. You already said what it was in part, but what I noticed again, you put up the definition for theist, but you didn't do that for atheist. You just told us what atheist was. So why wouldn't you do that other than deceptive tactics? Why not put up the definition of atheist? Perhaps because the definition of atheist would show that you're incorrect about what atheism is or isn't. A, without, theos, God, without God, no God, don't believe in God, have no belief in God. There you go. Not that difficult, and, if you look it up and you're not afraid to show what you find, you'll find an AI overview on Google, because we got to have AI everywhere now. Lacks belief in the existence of a god or gods, or believes that there's no gods. Notice that there's the word or, because there's two different versions of it. In the Greek, it comes from Greek atheos, meaning without a god. So here's it. A person who disbelieves in the existence of God or gods, from dictionary, which you used to define theos. So you should be fine with dictionary, just one definition. Now, I usually use more definitions than just one, but you only used one, so I'm only going to use one, and I'm using the same dictionary that you did, at least I think, because it was really hard to see your screen. You see what you showed on your screen. So you are already wrong about what atheist is if going by the dictionary that you used.
Then you've got agnosticism, which is a funny one, because that's just kind of like flipping the monopoly board and pretending like you don't hold a position. But like I said up front,
no, that's not what the word agnostic means at all. And why didn't you look up the word agnostic? Again, I guess because then you'd have to confront that word and what it really means. And you don't want to do that. And no, it's not like flipping the Monopoly board and pretending you don't know what's going on. No. there does seem to be two versions of agnostic nowadays, with the first being a philosophical version of agnostic, which is that you don't know whether God can or cannot be proven. The second definition of agnosticism seems to be becoming that you don't know if there is or isn't a God, which is different than saying it's impossible to know. It could be, I guess you could frame it as weak agnostic, I suppose. But at any rate, you didn't look up that definition because, who cares?
Everybody holds a position in this discussion, whether they want to accept it or not. So
the discussion of whether there's a God or not, I suppose, I mean, in a way, I mean, yes, but only. Okay, so everyone has a position about Blargle sauce. Yeah, you may have never heard of Blargle sauce before. So before I said that word, you didn't know about that word. So did you really hold a position of Blargle sauce before you heard the word? No, of course not. That's silly. A new concept that you're being introduced, new to you at any rate, is, well, I never heard of it before. Okay, tell me about this. How does this work? The Shamalala Maka, the Makabaka Yi Palaka, Mamma Mia, Shamakala. Wow, that's a weird word that I'm not going to be able to say again. What is that? Never heard of that before. I'm just now making this up. But why? Well, because it's a new concept. Okay, well, I didn't have a position about it until just now. But I don't yet have a position about it until you tell me more. Because just hearing the word, I don't know what the bleep you mean. I'll stick with Blargle sauce. It's easier. So, Blargle sauce. What the bleep is it? Well, it's this property of the universe. And it's when you put your hands like this and you go, and you get inside there is Blargle sauce. Now, you can't see, taste, feel, touch, or test Blargle sauce, but it's in there. I know you tried to look at it, right? You can't see it. But as soon as you do this, it's gone. It only exists when your hands are like this and you have to shake them to get Blargle sauce. Now, you might wonder how I know that Blargle sauce is a thing, considering that you can't test for it. And that's a really good question. Regardless, now that you've been told about Blargle sauce, you now have a position about it. Either there is or there is not a Blargle sauce in my hands. Does it exist? Well, I don't know. I said it does, but is it there? What's your position? It's either yes, Blargle sauce, or no Blargle sauce. But is that a fair dichotomy? Is there a third option? You could say, well, you've already admitted there's no test for Blargle sauce, so isn't the incumbent proof upon you to prove to us that Blargle sauce is there? And I said, yes, the test of Blargle sauce is you bring your hands together and you do that, and now you've got Blargle sauce. Yeah, but what is it? No, it's when you do that. That's what it is, and it's inside of your two hands. But what is it? No, I just told you what it is, but I didn't tell you anything about it other than the actions you do, but that's what it is. And your brain's like, yes, but is it a thing or is it just an idea? Ah, it's a thing. Well, okay, then you can demonstrate that. No, I can't. No test for it. Sorry. So what's your position on Blargle sauce? Well, given that you've just told me that you can't prove that it's a thing, I have to think that it's actually an idea and that you just believe that it's a thing. So can you demonstrate that it's a thing? No, because there's no demonstration of it. Duh, you can't test Blargle sauce. Nobody can prove Blorgel sauce, but you can't disprove Blorgel sauce either. So you just have to have faith in Blorgel sauce. Now you might wonder why anybody would have faith about Blorgel sauce. Because it makes you feel good. Also, you can drink Blorgel sauce. And once you do that, you now have 99 lives, like Mario. And you can die, but you'll come back. And you can do that then 98 more times. But on the last one, you actually die for real. Now, is that testable? Well, maybe. But maybe not. Also, by the way, when you do drink it, if you did die and you stay dead, well, that's actually illusionary. You're not really dead. You're actually alive, but we can't see you anymore. Now, is that real? No. But can you really say no? This is the problem of an unfalsifiable claim. And when you have an unfalsifiable claim, the only thing that you could do would be to produce bad arguments to support that unfalsifiable claim. You could never demonstrate that the unfalsifiable claim is true, especially if there is nothing to demonstrate. More than likely, this is just an idea that you made up and is not a real phenomenon, but is just an imaginary idea that you have come up with. The idea of Blorgel sauce is something that might give you some joy, and you might feel good that you believe in it, but it's just an idea. It's not really real, other than it's as real as Jar Jar Binks.
Basically, if we have those available options, we have some people who believe in pretty much the obvious reality all around us, that this all came from an intentional mind. This was
It's just obvious. Just look at the dimes. It's so obvious.
Into motion. There was a prime mover, and there is a designer behind this design. There is.
Wow, it's just obvious. Yeah, it's just obvious. Okay. Not obvious to me, but okay. Sure, whatever.
The creator behind this creation. But then you've got people who just want to opt out, you know? And I kind of get that. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I spent a lot of my life trying to internalize that. I never could call myself an atheist, because just objectively, that's a ridiculous position. Look around.
It's just objectively a ridiculous position. Just look around you. Now, I could flip this on its head and say, theism, it's just a ridiculous position. Look around you. Same argument. Well, there isn't an argument here. Looking around you is not a methodology to get to any conclusion. You're not telling me what to look for. And I had this conversation at some point ago. Yes, during the Skeptic series. When I talked to the pastor of the Skeptic series, he had said in one of his many videos, look around. And I'm like, okay, I looked around. What am I looking for? What's your method? What are you talking about? He's like, well, you notice that the things around you are built and designed by people. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well. And I'm like, well. He's like, well, what about everything else? I'm like, everything else is natural. And it doesn't need a builder. But you want there to be a builder. You look at the trees and you see God. I look at the trees and I see trees. Because there's no methodology in just looking around. It's just looking around. The evidence for any given phenomenon has to be something that can be explained in a way that is comprehensible and demonstratable to all involved. Looking around is not a methodology.
It cannot be that this is accidental. I knew from, I don't know what age, but I knew from such a young age that the story of the Big Bang is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
You knew from a young age that the Big Bang was the most ridiculous story you've ever heard. You were told the Big Bang at a young age? Really? How old were you? But you just knew. I love that. That's great. You can just know stuff at a young age. And you're right. You know, like when I was young, I came up with an idea. Well, many ideas. But one idea that I came up with is that there was 5 zeros. 5 zeros. Not just 1 0. Okay? I can explain this in great detail if you want me to. I don't know who would want me to do that, but if you did, I will make a video about that because it'd be fun for me. I don't know. But yeah, that idea was nonsense. I know that now, but I still remember the whole thing, you know. But just knowing or believing something doesn't make that thing true. You don't understand Big Bang cosmology, so it doesn't make sense to you, I guess. But that doesn't make it false. Just saying that you know something is ridiculous doesn't actually make it ridiculous. This is not how reason or logic functions.
So why is opting out not an option? A lot of people think that they can just opt out of this discussion, call themselves agnostic or call themselves atheist. And
you know, I tend to believe people when they tell me what they are. If they say they're agnostic, they're agnostic. If they tell me they're a skeptic, they're a skeptic. Now, I extend that courtesy to them because I want them to extend that courtesy to me. They could be lying, but all right, whatever. I guess I'll find out if they're lying, or maybe I won't. It doesn't really affect me one way or the other. But I'm going to assume, as per the social contract that we have with each other, that the person is being honest with what they tell me in regards to what they believe and or don't believe. So how about just accepting that that's what the person is? I don't know. Doesn't hurt me to do it, but apparently it hurts this guy, I guess.
My contention is that that is ridiculous.
Okay.
That is not possible.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot do that. It's not one of the...
It is, but you can do it. You just don't like it.
available options. And it's based on a few things. It's based on human nature, again, which I'll argue till the cows come home. That's our nature, which was given to us by a creator. We know.
Okay, so you will argue until the cows come home that the human nature is given by the God that you assert that exists. That's circular. That's not logical. It doesn't matter how long you argue it if your logic is broken.
Inherently that we were created, whether there's people who want to go their own way and do their own thing or not. We know inherently that we were created.
The classic we know claim. No, actually, I don't know that we were created. In fact, I'd go as far to say that in regards to being created, the amount of things that I know suggests strongly to me that no, I was not created by anything other than the fundamental forces of nature. When a particular semen and egg got together, that started my process of being me. Various other factors influenced that along the way, but nonetheless, that's what made me me instead of something else. And there's no need for a creator other than the biological parents that I had. That's it. I don't need anything more than natural stuff to explain the natural stuff that I have. There's no need to invoke the supernatural or the non-natural or an unseen creator. But you think that that's ridiculous. Okay, cool. What's your argument? Oh, right. He doesn't have an argument.
And at the end of the day, every single last one of us is searching for the meaning and the direction in life that is related to that instinct.
Okay, I agree. Yes, it does indeed piss me off a lot when people tell me what I think, feel, and believe. And I wish that apologists would cut this out. I don't know why people do this. I guess it makes them feel better about themselves. But okay, people are looking for something to believe in. He said something like that. You know, we're all trying to figure it out. Yeah, broadly speaking, not everybody, but many are trying to figure out how to navigate reality. And I would say the best way to do that is science, reason, logic, informal logic, and formal logic where applicable. You know, that would be my methods to navigating reality. Adding time to meditate, probably good for you, you know, diet and exercise, things I'm not doing, you know. So there's many things that you could do that are good for you that I don't do because laziness prevails. But at any rate, if you want to include that God belief is there, cool. That works for you, but it doesn't work for me. I don't believe in God. I don't need to believe in God. I used to believe in God, but then logic hit me in the brain. And then I stopped believing in God. I didn't want to per se, but I didn't really have a choice because I had to be honest with the evaluation of the available evidence and data that I had spent time and energy to explore. And there wasn't any for the religion that I held. And so, well, I had to deconvert and be a skeptic. And that's my position until somebody demonstrates that God is a thing in the first place. But you just saying that my position is ridiculous doesn't prove your position at all, not even a little, nor does me desiring to figure out how reality works, which is sort of true. I'd like to, but I'm not really actively trying to figure that out or anything. That's up to scientists. Doesn't prove God either. So nothing you're saying is proof of anything other than you don't know what the bleep you're talking about.
Of being created. So if every single human being has an innate, inherent craving for meaning and understanding and direction in life, then by default, every single one of us falls back on something.
Okay, so this is kind of like a watered down, weakened version of C.S. Lewis's argument that you have a desire that needs to be fulfilled, so therefore that desire must exist. Like if you feel hungry, then food has to be a thing. And he makes this argument and then he extends it to the spiritual need that people have, and that means that there must be a spiritual thing that fulfills it. And I'm like, well, no, because you can want stuff that isn't real. People are not bound by what is really there to have in reality. Your desire for anything doesn't make that thing actually real. It might, but it's not guaranteed. Like there's certain characters from various animes and video games that I find extraordinarily attractive, and they would be my age if they were real people, so it's perfectly fine for me to be attracted to them. But at any rate, that doesn't make those people real. They're not real. They're illusionary. Whether my desire for them doesn't make them real. So if this is that argument that everyone and not everybody might, by the way, but many people have a desire for something that doesn't make that something necessarily real. And not everybody is desiring God. Different people have different desires. You're just asserting this to be true and then saying that that's proof of God. But I'm saying even if you were right and that everybody had a desire for God, which is not true, but even if that was the case, that wouldn't make God real.
For me, it's always been God. It's always been a creator. What I used to say to kind of jujitsu my way out of a God as an authority figure is that God is the three-letter word that we put to the unexplainable. So God is the three-letter word that we put to the unexplainable. And I used to feel pretty content with that. That with that description, I get out of the responsibility of actually having to learn about this God and then come into relationship with this God.
It's kind of a weird way to go about it, but okay, so the way that you viewed God once, you then decided was incorrect over time for various different reasons that you didn't go into. Okay, cool. Whatever. You do you, I guess. But how do you know anything about God? I mean, how do you know that God is what you're saying as opposed to some other thing? What's your evidence? What's your argument? What's your anything? You don't have anything here other than you're just saying stuff. Okay, anyways.
Or understanding, even to begin with. So if no human being can live without meaning, that means every single human being will place their authority, will place their worship in something.
Okay, so you have something that almost resembles an argument. If every human being desires some meaning, then they'll worship something. But those two aren't connected. Wanting a meaning is not connected to worship of anything. These are two different categories. So this would be a category error. And because it's a category error, you would also incur the non sequitur. So this doesn't flow from the first premise you gave. Now, this is a hypothetical syllogism that you're presenting because you're saying if, at least it's a partial hypothetical syllogism on a technical level. But regardless, if one is true, then two is true. But one might not be true and you haven't demonstrated that it is. And since two doesn't follow, then the conclusion, whatever it is, cannot follow either. So broken argument's broken.
Whether it's some kind of a functional religion, whether it's science, whether it's politics, whether it's some other twisted, scuffed ideology, identity movements, everybody places their worship in something.
So he's saying this again as if it's true. I don't know what he means by worship. But even if that's true, even if the word worship is whatever, so flexible that you could apply it to every human, that doesn't make it God, and it doesn't make it true, that it doesn't mean anything. So I'm not really sure what the point is. But you haven't demonstrated that it's true. So I don't believe that it is. I don't worship anything, I don't think.
That's what you have to understand. That's what so many people try and escape and trying to avoid accepting. Everybody puts their faith in something.
All right. Everybody puts their faith in something. That might not be true either. But even if it was true, that doesn't mean anything at all. That doesn't prove anything, nor does it demonstrate anything.
whether it's God, whether it's a creator, whether it's one of the many different worldviews and religions, whether it's politics, whether it's science, whether it's any of these identity movements, everybody's putting their face somewhere. And as the famous quote goes, when a man stops believing in God, it's not that he believes in nothing. It's that he'll believe in anything.
Well, that quote is wrong, because I will not believe in anything. I personally will only think something is true if you have empirical evidence, repeatable tests, and or a sound argument for it. And if you don't have empirical evidence and or a repeatable test and or a sound argument, then I will not believe it. So that certainly isn't anything. Therefore, that quote does not apply to me. Therefore, that quote is wrong. Rather than appealing to a quote in place of an argument, instead use an actual argument. Not that you would know what an argument is, I don't think, because it's pretty clear from this video that you don't know anything. But that's okay. You know, you just can just say, it's ridiculous. Because that's an argument. I've seen worse videos. No, you haven't. This is the worst video ever, I'm telling you. You gotta believe that. Look, I don't need to prove that this is the worst video of all time. It just is. That's the operational modus that he's working on.
And that's a very profound statement.
No, it's not.
That speaks to the core of us. I don't care who you are. You can yell and you can scream, you can kick, but you know you feel that.
No, I don't feel that. And what you're saying is not logical. Don't tell me how I feel. No, I don't. You know that it's not true. I could do that too. Oh, you know that there's no God. Yeah, you know that. And I have a quote here, and I could come up with some quote or make up a quote, whatever. Anyways, no, what? Okay, and the quote would be what? An appeal to authority at best, and so that would be a logical fallacy. But why did you make it so small? Make it the whole screen. We can barely read it.
If you, or the other saying goes, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
If you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for anything. I mean, if you're not standing, then you can't technically fall, can you? I mean, you'd be lying down if you're not standing, or maybe if you were sitting, you could. But if you're lying down, it's really hard to fall. But you could, if you rolled off of like a cliff or something, you could fall. So I guess it would be if you were lying down on a very flat surface for miles around, then and only then can you not fall down unless you started rolling a long ways away. There, I fixed it. I know it wasn't meant to be analyzed or whatever. So anyways, as I was saying, so there's a zero that is neither positive nor negative. What? Oh, don't explain the zero stuff? Nobody cares about that. But all right. My invisible pretend producer who doesn't exist told me to get back to this video where and not to talk about my 5-0 idea. So I'm going to make that video anyways. I don't care if anyone watches it.
And that's basically what it comes down to here. If we remove the authority from God, from a creator, then it's our inherent need, it's our inherent nature to find a replacement in where to place that authority.
And you're assuming that God is an authority, I guess, and that there's a need for a replacement for it or whatever. It's a lot of assumptions and leaps in non-logic that you're making here, and none of it applies to me and none of it's true. So I don't know what else to say. Just no.
We need it. So What do we do with this inescapable reality?
You mean this inescapably bad argument that you've constructed that's not even really an argument? I would say discard it in full because it's broken in terms of logic. You have plenty of fallacies, and you have a partial syllogism that was the beginning of a hypothetical syllogism, but you didn't even actually make it one. You didn't say anything of substance at all. You just don't like not believing in God. Okay, and then you're like going off into this kind of broken idea of that people have desires and that somehow means God or something. I don't know. It's not you need to actually formulate something coherent and the problem is, I think, you don't know informal logic. So my suggestion to you would be to learn informal logic. You guys think he's gonna do it? But I'm gonna tell him to do it anyways. In fact, I'm gonna do that right now. Let's just do that right now. Before we do, my first comment does say, I'll take people who got everything wrong for 200. The answer is this video. And that was kind of a sarcastic remark. So I think I'll go ahead and delete that. Instead, I'll say, didn't want to delete it. Delete. All right. Instead, I'll say, I think you should learn informal logic. That way, you could make an argument of some sort. And that would be something, you know? I don't know. Anyway, this comment is in my video response to this video. That's all. Okay. All right. Now, okay. So I wrote that, and it's there, and maybe YouTube will blow it up because I said response. Okay.
If every human being worships, then the only question is, what do they worship? That's the only.
If every being worships, then the question is, what do they worship? Well, again, with this word worship never being defined once, you're just asserting that people worship stuff without demonstrating that that's true. And whether it's true or not, that still doesn't mean that there's a God, nor does it mean that even if every human worshiped God, that also wouldn't prove that there's a God. So first you would have to demonstrate all humans do X, which would be extraordinarily difficult. You'd need to define X. And then you would have to associate X with God, and there'd have to be a link there that you haven't produced at all. So your work is cut out for you, but this is not even an argument yet. But keep going.
Only question left. That's the only question that you have to ask yourself. What do I worship? Is it an ideology? Is it science? Is it the material world around us?
No.
I see so many people stuck on that. They want to apply the physical limitations to the infinitude, to the infinity, to the unexplainable.
What? They want to do X. How do you know what people want now?
To the creator. And it doesn't work that way.
Why not?
So many people get stuck there. I was stuck for a long time trying to, I wouldn't allow it to let me become atheist, but I would allow it to deify myself, which I spent my majority of my life doing. And
wow, thank goodness you don't deify yourself anymore. I mean, you know.
Where does that lead?
I don't know.
If there is no such thing as a true atheist, because every single person worships some kind of a false god, and that's
okay. So now he has finally produced something that resembles an argument. Took him long enough. So everybody worships something. Those things are false gods. Therefore, everybody worships God. Therefore, there's no atheist. Now we finally get to it. So that's the argument. Everybody worships false gods, premise one. Therefore, everyone believes in God. But here's the problem with that. I don't call the thing that I supposedly worship God. Therefore, even if it was true that so there's so much problems with this. So premise one would be something like everybody worships false gods, therefore there is no real atheist, or let's just say there are no atheists because everybody would then believe in God because they're worshiping God. But if they're not calling it God, then they are indeed an atheist. If they don't actively believe in God, even though you're calling it God, then they still would be an atheist. So it's wrong, no matter what you do with that. It don't work. So you can say, well, you're worshiping, I don't know, this. Come here, damn it, let me worship you, this. Now, I've been telling people for a long time to read The Lobsterist because The Lobsterist is the true book. It is the real book that contains the lobster original deity. It's not him, though. He's not Laud, but he's kind of like the idol of Laud. He's a representation of Laud, okay? So worshiping Laud, you can do that. And that makes perfect sense, but you have to read The Lobsterist to understand why. In fact, I think I'm going to challenge this guy. Debunk The Lobsterist. I dare you. No one's done it yet. No one's even tried. Anyway, but say that I was worshiping Laud, which is a false god in your view. But I don't consider Laud a god. I consider Laud a deity, which is different than a god. But then I wouldn't be an atheist because I would be believing in a deity. However, if I didn't believe that Laud was a deity and I worshiped Laud, then I would be an atheist because I don't believe in God or deities. So I could still worship it without it being a god or a deity. And without me believing that it's a god or a deity. And if I don't believe in God, then I'm an atheist, even though I'm worshiping something. So your argument falls apart. But nice try. At least he got there in the end. But it don't work.
Why in the scriptures, the first commandment, the second commandment is to not worship false idols.
So your justification for not worshiping false idols is from the very Bible that you think is true, that you haven't demonstrated or proven that's true, that's just now coming into the picture, like after everything you've said. Like, why didn't you start off by saying, I'm a Christian or whatever the hell you are? That would have been nice, but oh well, whatever, that's fine, Why'd you put it so small again? What is up with this? I can't see that. Why? Oh, anyways, whatever.
To worship no other God besides me.
Yeah, okay. So what? Every religion's going to say that they're the only true one. I mean, obviously, that doesn't mean anything. I don't care.
And this is tough for people to accept. This is a very, very tough thing because people don't want to surrender. People want to retain control and authority and power over their lives without.
So you don't want to surrender because you want to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, let's examine if this is true. Let's say I don't want to surrender and give up control of my life over to an invisible, intangible, unprovable idea like God. Okay, and that was completely true. That still doesn't prove that your God is real. My not wanting to do something does not prove that that something is real. So you still don't have an argument.
Without realizing that the whole time they're doing so, they've just placed authority somewhere else, whether it's in governmental institutions, politics, whether it's in science. It's always an authority. There's always, or whether it's even just consensus. I hear people arguing all the time, but everybody believes this. It has to be true. No, it doesn't.
Well, you got that right. Just because people believe something, that doesn't make that belief true. Unfortunately, you haven't done that in regards to this God concept. You've said that you tried to at some point, but you just thought it was too stupid to not believe in God or something, I guess.
For whatever reason, I've always been comfortable going against the grain, so I never got hung up on that. You could have literally every single 8 billion other people on this planet tell me to go left, and if I don't believe that, I'll go right.
Okay.
I'm comfortable to do that. But most people aren't. Most people are happy to appeal to consensus and appeal to authority for some of these big questions. But just because the majority of people do something doesn't make it right.
That's correct.
Just because even the majority of smart people or some very, very authoritative figures do something doesn't make it right. We all have free thinking minds. We all have free will.
Well, I don't know about the free will part, but sure. What does this have to do with anything again? I don't know. Whatever. All right.
We all have God-given logic and rationality in our brain.
No. We don't have God-given anything until you demonstrate that God is a thing that gave us anything. And I don't see any evidence of God giving me or any other human anything that some other human didn't give me. In fact, all of my understanding about everything came from humans, as far as I can tell. I don't think that God gave me anything ever, because I don't think there's a God. I could be wrong about that, but you certainly haven't given me any reason to think that.
Brains. So use it.
Yeah, use your brain would be good. But,
so I think that's my challenge to you. Rather than standing outside the court, which is kind of agnosticism, standing outside the court and criticizing, you're outside the game, but you want to criticize and tell people on the inside of the game how they should be doing things.
What? This analogy is malformed, because you said agnosticism was like throwing the Monopoly board over and pretending you weren't playing that game. And now you're talking about agnosticism being outside of a court and not being inside of it, and then telling people how to do the thing inside. None of this makes sense. But if as far as telling you what to do or not to do, I don't want to do that. I will tell you that if you want to convince anybody of anything at all, you're not going to do that by the methodology you're currently using. And I would suggest to learn logic, because that might help you to make arguments that might indeed convince people to change their mind about any given idea. But everything you've said here in this video has just made me convinced that you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And I don't believe in God any more than I did at the start of this video. And in fact, maybe I believe in God less. Is that possible? No, that's not possible. I don't think. Anyways.
That's a cop-out, brother. Think about it. If you want to have an opinion on something, then step in the arena.
Well, as far as I can tell, I'm in the arena. This what I'm doing here, this is the arena. And if we are indeed in the arena of ideas and we're challenging each other ideas, the problem is the thing is, you don't even qualify to get into the arena. because there's a test and you don't want to take that test. I guarantee you don't want to take that test. Then you might say, what are you talking about? Well, the test to get into the arena is, do you understand anything about how arguments function, even a little? Do you understand about burden of proof and evidence and epistemology? Do you? Because it really doesn't seem like you do. And you don't even seem to understand what the word atheist is, nor did you look it up or present it. And your entire spiel has been nothing but vague arguments that are not formatted as arguments that lead to nothing at no point. So if you want to truly be in the arena, you have to qualify. And the only way for you to qualify is learn informal logic.
Some skin in the game. You can't say, oh, I'm an atheist or I'm an agnostic.
I'm an atheist or I'm agnostic. Now, see, he said that I couldn't say it, but I just said it.
You can't say that because your worship, your deification is placed elsewhere. You have a
Whatever. Okay.
false god. You have a false idol. Power, money, material possessions, science, politics, governments.
Yeah, and
identity.
I mean, you say that those are false gods, but I don't believe in God at all. So, and nor do I believe that they are false gods. So your conclusion is based on your own beliefs about what is God and what isn't God, which I do not hold. So your argument's circular.
Politics, as I've gone over already. But I think my point is driven home well enough. The fact is, it does seem like a big step to give up authority or to place faith or belief in a immaterial being that is far, far, far outside our ability to conceive.
Okay, so it's an immaterial being, and then it's also far beyond your ability to conceive. So which is it? Because if it's really if you're unable to conceive of it, then you can't know what it is. If it's beyond your conception, then you cannot know anything about it other than you can't know about it. But then you said, no, I do know that it is immaterial. So you know some things about it, but there are other things that you can't know or understand about it. It's kind of weird. But I think you need to kind of decide what kind of thing you're talking about, because you can't have it both ways. It's got to be like it's comprehensible in this parameter, but other than that, there's unknowns or something like that. You need to reformulate your idea of God before trying to say what God is to me. And that's fine. You can have whatever God you want. I don't care. Even if you want to keep it this incoherent God of like, where you know that somehow that it's immaterial, but also you know that you can't conceive of it. I guess if that's really the version of God you want to believe in, fine, whatever. Doesn't make any sense, but okay. You need to demonstrate that God is real if that's your goal. I mean, maybe it's not. I'm not sure what the hell your goal was, to be honest, other than to say that atheists don't exist when they do exist. But that was the attempt of the argument that you were trying to make, but you failed to make because you don't understand informal logic. Thus, you couldn't make an argument because you don't even know the rules to make an argument in the first place, which is probably why there's so many logical fallacies in everything you've said.
Outside human conception. It seems overwhelming to place faith there and hope, but
yeah, I mean, overwhelming, it's irrelevant. All I need is proof that it's a thing. Then I'll believe that it's a thing. But you've offered me zero evidence at all, nor any test to run. And you certainly haven't offered me a sound argument or even a valid argument for that matter. So there's zero reason for me to do anything about this idea at all.
I promise you, once you do, there is freedom there. And it's actually the only form of true freedom. Because placing hope in the material world, in all these things that I've listed out, leads to despair.
Okay, so that's an appeal to consequence. Like, placing hope in X leads to bad thing, therefore don't place hope in X, because that would lead to bad thing. But you don't know that that is true, by the way. But even if it was true, and so what? Who cares? Like, you would be able to demonstrate if that was true. But yeah, it's just, this doesn't work.
In the long term. And I'm going to do another video about the currency of God and the currency of the devil and the contracts that each one will have us sign. But
what?
Think about that. Marinate on this thought. Do you really have no idol? Do you really have no deity?
Yes, I really do not have any idol or any deity. That is correct. Yes, that is correct. I do not have those things. But even if I did have those things, that still wouldn't prove that there is your version of God. So the answer to your question would then not be relevant to the topic at hand, because you still haven't met your burden of proof.
Or do you? And is it a false God?
Well, since I don't believe in gods, then all gods would, I guess, be false, but then I don't call it God, so then it just wouldn't be that at all. So, no, I guess.
And then, further, what are the fruits of this belief?
Well, since I don't have that belief, then there are no fruits to talk about.
What are the fruits in your life? Where is it bringing you?
Well, what is my non-belief bringing me? Nothing. That's not how a non-belief works. I guess you mean the thing that you think that I'm worshiping, that I'm not worshiping, where does that bring me? And the only thing I think that maybe I could fit into that slot would be logic, specifically informal logic. And what that brings me is the ability to make an argumentation that is valid and sound. And also the ability to spot logical fallacies and analyze them and point them out and try to get them corrected. So that would be that. But I don't think that I worship logic or view it as a god, even though people did. I mean, that's what Mercury is. So, but at any rate.
Do you feel free? Do you feel peace? Do you feel fulfillment?
Sometimes. But my feelings have no direct correlation with what is real. So it doesn't matter what I feel in relation to what is actually real.
Or do you feel despair? I want to leave it there. As always, comment, let me know your thoughts below. I engage with the comments. I like it. They're starting to pick up steam. And I want to hear your opinions. Push back if you got pushback. If there was any tangent that you want to see me go down in another video, let me know, and I'll do it. So, looking forward to hear from you.
Now, I guess I'll post a second comment then, which will be, this is my second comment. Well, third. But I deleted the first one, so that doesn't count. Anyway, so BS Lou is in my chat, and I like him. He is funny. You might wonder, what the bleep are you writing about, deconverted man, and why can't you spell or type words anymore? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to type and talk at the same time, and it's really hard to do that. My short video will make this joke make sense. Love, lobsters. Thanks for reading, and meow, meow. I'm a lobster, and pancakes. The pancakes! Don't get me started on the pancakes. Now, as I was saying, the second zero. All right, and that's yeah. All right, so thanks for watching, everybody. We'll just see if he responds to that comment. Shit, drops everything everywhere. Oh man, I knocked over my microphone and everything. Anyway, oh shit, oh god, what the hell? Until next time, be skeptical, and after next time, stay skeptical. My next video will be on my other channel that I do have, a second channel that I really don't exactly use, but I'm going to use it just to talk about the zero thing. So if you really want to hear me talk about zero, I'm going to link that in the description of this video. But you won't be able to watch it live unless, like, you wait around. I guess you won't be able to watch it live. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye. Isn't it sus that he thinks everything is bullshit except what he specifically believes? I mean, you know, a horse is a false unicorn. Wait, what? What are you guys talking about? I don't know. Anyways, all right. Thanks for doing and make sure to do the share this video with people. I don't know. Tell them about Deconverted Man in a positive way, hopefully, because, like, I worry. Are people saying bad things about me? Am I worshiping that? Oh, man. Let me know in your comments what you worship or don't in the comments of. Later. Okay. Now we'll hit the button now.